All right, well, we're back. This is Politics and Prepper podcast here at TalkShoe.com, and we do it every Saturday night at 10 o'clock Central Time, and the show ID number is 120315, and that's at TalkShoe.com. Alan and I were just talking, and I stopped the conversation because I think we're going to put the conversation in that we were just talking about. I don't really know where we're going with the show tonight. I have been working on a new project over at Google Plus, and it's called Google Plus Hangouts. And you can do video and chat. You have a chat room. You can do video, talk up to 10 people total. I did a video with Mike the other night, and we were talking about the Revolution TV show over on NBC, and you can find that over at YouTube. And I think probably the easiest way to find it is search Bug Out Bag Content or Contents, and you'll find it. But anyway, that's not important right now. I'll figure that out later. The only thing I haven't been able to figure out is when I'm going to add some more people in, and when I'm ready and when people want to get in through my Google Plus. But I haven't figured out how to get a URL to send people to it yet. So once I get that all figured out, maybe by next weekend, I'll tell you how to find it. And if y'all want to join in and have some fun with that, check and see what we're posting on different things. But anyway, that's another little, one of the things I like about it is I'm trying to figure out a way to do this show and do it with a video, and because it'll go straight to YouTube and download while we're doing it. Plus, we could do this show, and there's some other things. I still got a ways to go to learn about what all you can and can't do with it. But anyway, I've been working on that, and I haven't really paid much attention today to what to put on the show. So Al and I are just going to talk and see where it goes. But we're going to start out. We've both been getting a lot of rain. He's in North Texas, I'm in South Texas, and we've been getting a lot of rain, and it got him onto a topic. So, Al, I'm going to let you take it from there.
Well, I was sitting here thinking, and if the situation ever comes about where we're having to harvest water, as some people call it, one of the places you would do that with would be, from capturing the water coming down your drain spout off your roof. And so I got to thinking about that today, and it was raining pretty good. And I'm saying, well, I wonder how much rain, that you could have captured off your roof. And so I was looking at the weather map a while ago, and today we had a rainfall of 0.768 inches. So
we beat you.
Yeah, but so anyway, I started thinking about, okay, how would I calculate how much water you could capture, in that amount. So, and I don't know if I've done this right, but the way I see it, and if anybody sees a hole in this, that's what we're looking for. I was just saying in a 10 by 30 square foot area of the roof, which would be, that's a 300 total square foot area. So you would need to calculate how many inches that would. That would be 10 times 12, 10 feet to get inches, that would be 10 times 12. And times 30 times 12, which would be the same as 120 times 360, which gives you 43,200 square inches in that 10 by 30 foot area. So you would take that 43,200 times the 0.768, the amount of the rainfall, gives you a total of 3,317.76. That's the amount of the rainfall in that area. There's 231 cubic inches in a gallon. So if you take that 3,317.76 divided by 231, gives you 14.36 gallons of water in that area if you had captured all the rain in it.
Right.
So anyway, that's just something I was sitting here and right before the show, and I was kind of doodling that up. And if anybody sees any holes in that, certainly shoot us a correction on that.
Well, and one of the reasons I wanted to stop the conversation before we started the show and do it on the show was because, I don't have that problem here at my house. I have a well.
Right.
And I know some people will think, well, how are you going to get the water out of the well? I have a well that's 60, 70 years old. It's hand dug. It's 40 feet deep. If I had to, stick a bucket on a rope, So, but I'm always looking for things that, for instance, say we had to leave here, and it was an emergency situation, and we ended up at one of the other places where we don't have the kind of water I've got. I might need something like that. I might need to think about something like that.
Well, yeah.
And other people might too. Just because I personally maybe won't need something doesn't mean it won't be important for some of the other people that might end up listening to the show.
Right.
So, since water is the most important in my mind,
it is.
Then that's it. I mean, that's an important topic. So, if somebody's listening and they're thinking, the water might be interrupted in our area, and we can't get it out of the faucet, and we don't want to leave or can't leave, that's something to look at. And there's other ways, but it's a place to get you started thinking about those type of things.
Right. Yeah, you can, out on the internet, you can find places that sell equipment, just, where you can tap into your drain spout,
right,
off your house, and then collect it into a bucket, barrel, or whatever. There's even one company on there that sells rain seats. They're like little benches, but with a solid bottom, and you collect the rain coming off your house into basically the hose you bury under the ground a couple inches, and they go into that container under that seat that captures it. But also, one of the things I saw on the YouTube once, it was pretty nice, or pretty neat idea, where you take the old blue tarps that you see selling at the hardware store.
Yep, those couple bucks worth of tarp can go a long ways for lots of things.
Right, and what they did is basically you took some like tent stakes and put that tarp down where it was off the ground, a couple of feet off the ground, and then in the very center of that they put a rock,
right, or a ball bearing or nut or something enough to help it hold down a little bit.
Got to be something that holds it down. And they took a lighter and they burned a little hole. And actually what they did is they took a string and tied it around that rock and then fished that string down through that hole they burned into a bucket. So the water would collect on that area. And
it's better to burn the hole than it is to cut the hole.
Yes, you want to burn the hole. That keeps it from ripping.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were showing, how you can collect, so in other words, if you're ever in that situation, you see a rain coming, you slip out there and set up your little contraption and get your bucket under there and collect you a few gallons of water.
And even that same tarp can be used the opposite way, too. You do the same setup where you put the rock in the middle, all right? But say you missed the rain. Now the sun's coming out. You put that tarp over there, and that water from the ground will evaporate and hit the bottom of that tarp and drip back. You won't get as much water as you would from a rain. But when you get down to where you need water, or you might need water, anything you can do to collect some while you have a chance,
right,
that's what you do. So even after the rain, that thing it can still be collecting water from the evaporation.
Right.
So,
those
little tarps are amazing what you can do with sometimes.
Yeah, and also there's the thing where you can dig a hole and you collect you dig a hole and you put a tarp, you put a bucket in the center of the hole, and do the same thing. You collect, basically you capture water from the atmosphere this way. But you can find all kinds of ways on YouTube on how to harvest water, as some people call it. And the other thing I've been looking at, we're talking about stockpiling food and everything, is, a means of cooking it. And there's two different stoves I've been looking at. One of them is it's called the rocket stove design, and I think there's Stove Tech is one of the companies that make it. And these stoves are based on an old ancient Chinese design where it creates a draft, and you will use 90% less wood in these stoves than you would in a conventional wood burning type stove.
Right.
So you can burn like twigs, anything, and basically cook on these things. So you can catch some YouTube videos on these things. And the other one is called a volcano stove.
Is that the one where you can use the gas or briquettes or wood?
The volcano stove is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. It's a portable stove. You kind of grab the handle, lift it up, and these legs spring out. And it's about a $75 stove. Cheaper than Dirt has it for $75. But you can burn butane, charcoal, wood, fuel cell, anything, just pretty much anything. It's got an attachment for the butane. But so that's the two stoves that I'm going to get, and for my I don't have stoves yet. But anyway, that's the two that I'm going to get.
Well, here's a thought. Like, I have a barbecue pit that burns wood. It's the big heavy-duty one that we made years ago out of heavy steel, and it's lasted for 20 years, right? And then I've got one that runs off of propane. You go up to the hardware store and you buy, right? So, and that's what most people have, one or the other.
Right. And
these days, mostly it's the propane one. The one I have also has a little side burner where you can put your pot of beans or stew or whatever, And I suggest, if you don't have the finances to do what Al's talking about right away, say you're concentrating on getting your food stores built up and you don't want to take money away from that right now, but you do have the propane barbecue pit, go as you can and invest in a little bit of propane, because even though you're still spending money, you'll have a stove, something to cook on. And if you do get to the point where you can get like that volcano one you're talking about, it runs off of propane too.
Right.
So you can use it on that. Look at ways to gradually build up and use your finances wisely to get to where you want to be.
Well, also on YouTube, if you Google it or search it on YouTube, there's a video in there where a guy shows you how to build a volcano stove out of 16 bricks, and that using that same design for.
I might have to look into that because I got a bunch of bricks.
Yes, he just shows you how to stack them, and what you could do is you could actually, if you got like a fireplace in your house.
That's what I was going to suggest earlier, because we were talking about this earlier. I was saying, will that thing fit in your?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I looked at these on the rocket stove. You can take the legs off from it. It's only about I've already measured. They'll fit in my fireplace, so you can cook there. But also the 16 brick rocket fuel design. He just shows you how to stack them, and actually it gives you the same. Creates the same draft and everything, and you can just sit there and stack those bricks in your fireplace, and you get bricks for $0.25 a piece, probably 30 cents a piece. Top.
Yeah, and if they're building homes near you someplace, you can probably pick up some for free that they're going to throw away, because they usually don't keep them, because they build a house, and then when they build, even if they build another house and use the same color brick, it never really quite matches. So a lot of times they just throw those bricks away. I think we just somehow dropped Al's call, so I'll keep on with this for a minute. Maybe we can get him back in. And if I add him back in. So anyway, what I was thinking, and I don't know 100% about that. But the volcano stove he's talking about, a lot of new homes have fireplaces, but they don't have wood-burning fireplaces. They've got gas-burning fireplaces. But those gas-burning fireplaces have a vent for gas. It has to have the vent for gas. And I'm sorry if I'm a little bit preoccupied here, or I'm trying to get Al back in. So anyway, you can probably take the gas-burning stove out and use that vent and still add the volcanic one in. So let's see if Al's back in here yet. We were having this problem right at the beginning of the show too, just before we started it, getting him dropping out. But anyway, that's a suggestion there. You might want to check into it ahead of time if that's what you think you might want to do, so you know whether it will work or what you might have. Maybe you just have to buy a little something to make it fit adapt the exhaust from the volcano stove to your gas vent leading out of your gas fireplace. So hopefully we'll get Al back in here in a minute, and it doesn't look like it. And hopefully this doesn't mean, I was having a little bit of problem a while ago too, even being on here, so hopefully we're not having technical difficulties. That's one thing bad about dealing with other services. There he is. He's back, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just expanded on that idea. I was telling them that even if you have a gas fireplace in your house, a gas fireplace has to have a vent for the gases coming out. So there may be a way to adapt that volcanic stove to use the vent, because it's probably not going to be really hot. We still got you?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so hearing an echo there, and I wasn't sure if you were still there. So anyway, it's just an idea. I don't know that much about those, but it's something that they can check into and see if it's something they can work, because they need to know ahead of time. And maybe have an adapter of some kind that they can go find a piece of metal or something to adapt it in or something.
Right. And the other thing I saw on YouTube is, because another thing you're going to have to worry about is heat. Of course, these things work, but I saw some designs on the internet for building, pretty reasonable, building a heating system using the same rocket stove design, where minimal amount of wood, or minimal amount of you can burn grass, anything in this thing, and once again, 90% less wood or fuel than your conventional stoves or heaters or whatever. But anyway, it was pretty neat design, and it was designed to where you stuck little sticks, whatever, on one side, and the fire burned sideways is what they call it, and then the exhaust would go out the back of it, which you could pour it out through a opening of some sort, through an open vent, or even up through your fireplace to where it would go up through the ceiling. Right.
Whether it be a gas fireplace or wood burning fireplace, or even a lot of people have a vent over their stove. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, you can find these on the internet pretty easily. Just look up rocket heater, and saw some pretty good designs for it. And they're not expensive to build. Most of these were built with brick, and they use some sand and stuff inside it for insulation between two walls, because the sand will hold heat. But that's something you got to look at, in a situation, because winter does come around, and if we're in a situation where you don't have utilities, you're definitely going to want to have some kind of heat.
Even down here, we have some pretty cold winters. Maybe not as cold as a lot. We get down to below freezing down here and stay for a day or two. We're thinking, world's coming to an end. But still, that's enough to get hypothermia and ruin things for you. That's a nice way to put it.
And you also, even if you do have that, you still want to have a couple of what they call mummy sleeping bags that are, rated for below zero.
And have you seen those aluminum tarps that they use to cover you up or to wrap up in? Well, they've got those now in a sleeping bag type looking thing.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to especially if you're going to have to pack out. That's something you might want to look at. It might not be that important at home because at your house you have room for your sleeping bags and your blankets and stuff. But still, just because I think most of us will want to stay where we're at if things go the way I'm thinking, that it's going to be pretty much worthless trying to go anywhere.
Yep.
But that also depends on where you're at. You may be in a place where it may be fairly easy if you find out early enough to get out.
Right.
But I also seen the same thing. We've got two different places to go. The closest one's still too far away as far as I'm concerned. But it's really hard to find some place close enough to where I live to be far enough away from the city and still be reasonably close to get to. So sometimes you can't fit things into a perfect scenario for what you want, so you just got to deal with what you got.
Right. Yeah, and another thing, aside from that, you also want to look at having what I'm looking at is just regular old camping porta toilets,
Yes.
If the plumbing's shut off, you're going to have to deal with that. We all got to go, the old saying.
Yeah, and again, I'm lucky. This house has been here long enough that it's got a old septic system.
Right.
Now, it's been blocked off and tied into the city, but it wouldn't take but a couple of hours for me to go out. I know exactly where it's all at, so it wouldn't take more than a couple of hours to go out and dig it up and reroute it. And I do have the PVC to do that with. I've already checked into that. I know what sizes they are. So I know what adapters I need and what links I need to do it with. So I've got that.
Well, let me ask you this. Maybe you'd know this. I hadn't had a chance to look into it, but with these camp potties, these portable toilets, and I'm Coleman has some. There's one of them made out of Europe that look pretty good. But they sell these, kind of a liquid stuff. You put in there.
Yes, it works.
But, huh?
It does work.
Yeah, but what I was wondering, now in your septic tank you put in, what is it, some kind of enzyme? I forget what it's called.
Yeah, but I think in the condition, the system, the way we'd be doing things then is you probably would not be too concerned with that. You're not going to be running everything into your septic. You're not going to be taking showers every day. You're not going to be washing your clothes every day.
No,
so the amount of liquid going in there, you may not even need to worry about that for the time being, and it should develop your own stuff. But it wouldn't hurt to have a can of those enzymes. If I remember right, you can get them in a powder type thing or crystal.
Yes.
Put that on the shelf.
Well, what I was wondering is, would that work in these portable toilets?
I don't think so. It takes time for the stuff to start growing because what you're doing is you're creating a biological filter that eats up the stuff.
Right.
Right. Well, you're not going to keep that in your house that long. It's going to get full.
Well, these portable toilets, they have a liquid you put in there that liquefies everything.
Yeah, but it's
got to be real active. It must be already active when you put it in there.
I'm sure it's already active, but it's not something you're going to fill that thing up so quick. I don't know if it's worth looking at it in that way, but it will help keep the odors down, so you don't have to go outside as often.
Right.
And you would only have to go outside because, especially at the beginning, you might not want to go outside for a while.
No, you're not.
You want to keep everything as quiet as possible, and don't have lights on. If you are going to have lights on, have it in an inner room where the light can't reach the outer windows. You're going to have to be real careful about that kind of stuff. You're going to have to do stuff to maybe even cover your windows, kind of like you're doing, but maybe somebody doesn't have the resources to get the plywood to do what you're talking about doing, but cover your outdoor windows with blankets or something. So if you accidentally open a door on the inner side of the house and you have a light on, it doesn't flash for a few seconds and somebody see it from a distance. You know.
Yeah, well, you definitely want to cover your windows because, if somebody has any clue that you have some food in there and a means of, cooking it or whatever, it'd be real easy for them to just shoot you through the window. And, so you got to definitely be on your toes.
And I might be analyzing this a little bit too much, but on your project where you're talking about putting, 2 3/4-inch plywood on each window?
Right. Yes, with 2x4s.
Right.
Screwed into the studs on either side of the windows.
Now, that might be a giveaway, though.
What's that?
Somebody sees something boarded up like that, they might be going, that's someplace to investigate.
Well, that may be true, but
I'm not arguing with you, though.
Before they could get through, before they could get through it. I'd rather have that than somebody just suddenly crash through my picture window in my master bedroom.
Yeah, I totally understand. But when people listen to stuff we're talking about, they're going to tear it apart, try to find the fallacies in it. So when I see one that somebody might think of, why not bring it up and talk it through anyway?
Yeah, the other thing would be to put some pretty thick rose bushes or something around in front of your windows or some
any deterrent.
Yeah, something that can deter it. But
nothing's going to stop them if they want it bad enough. But anything to make you the hardest of the targets.
Right. My thoughts are if it make it difficult for them to come in, the next house might look easier.
Yeah, just like with thieves, and that's what these people are going to be.
Right. Yeah, and as time goes on, they're going to be weaker and weaker.
And that's part of the whole thing about this. Now, maybe you listen to the show and you don't believe anything's going to happen, but you don't know that.
No.
There's always a possibility. Look at all these other countries that are having so many problems. Yes, it's the United States. That doesn't mean a damn thing. We can go down. Bigger empires or bigger countries have gone down before. Look at Russia. They went down. They went through a bunch of crap like this where there was hard to get food. If you did have money, you had to spend a whole bunch of it to get very little food.
Let me point out, we went through this once already.
Yes, we did.
The 29 stock, when the stock market crashed in 29, we went into a big depression.
But we went through it more than that. We went back in the 1800s and went through it. That's why a lot of the people started moving west.
Yes, but hang on a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know how many people died as a result of the crash in 29?
I've heard the number, but I don't remember. Go ahead.
It's around 7 million. Okay.
And you never hear that. You never hear that talk.
You don't hear that, but you can find it you can research and find it. But now here's what I'm pointing out. What would you say the population was in the country in 29?
Oh, I know where you're going, and I don't know what the population was, but by God, it's 4 or 5 times at least more now than it was then.
Well, it was approaching 100 million. Okay.
And what are we at now?
Well, okay, but hang on a second.
Okay, go ahead.
So there were 100 million people that died, and 100 million, roughly 100 million people, and there were 7 million that died. So that's 7%, if my calculations are correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in 29, 95% of the people lived on the farms.
That's right, and they had a chance to grow their own.
5% of the people living in the cities. The bulk of the 7 million that died were people in the cities.
Exactly.
Today, flip those numbers. Well, first of all, we're 300 million.
Right.
And 95% of the people live in the cities, and around 5% live in the farm. But of the 5% that live on the farm, not all of those people even farm. They just live there.
That's right.
A lot of them. But can you imagine if we had a 29 style crash.
And that's just a crash.
That's what we're talking about here.
Just a crash would do it.
But the thing is, there are so many things pointing to economic collapse, a crash.
Yeah, well, just look at how much debt do we get in every year just to pay people to stay home and sit on their ass. They're too lazy to get up and do something about it.
Oh.
We borrow all that money.
Yeah.
We're not paying it out of our pockets as far as for taxes. That goes for the politician to spend, have a freaking which way they want to. But the money we borrow doesn't even cover the people that are living off the dole.
Well, aside from that, I don't know if you probably listened to Glenn Beck. He had 2 shows on last week, one on Wednesday night and one on Thursday night. They were hour each, about the project, he calls it. Did you catch any of that?
I haven't listened to him lately.
Well, this was on Blaze TV.
Right.
And what he's telling everybody, what you could do is you can actually, they got a 14-day free trial on Blaze TV. You watch it on your computer or whatever. I think it's on Roku. But I tell you, man, you should join it for the 14 days. Cancel even if you cancel it after you watch these 2 programs. But what he points out, he's got different congressmen and senators on there, Michelle Bachmann being one of them. There's a definite connection between Obama and the Muslim Brotherhood.
Oh, I don't doubt it a bit. I have thought so for a long time.
He had just here last month.
I don't think he's even Christian.
No. Here last month when Ramadan went on, they were having prayers, Muslim prayers meetings in the White House, and one of the top Muslim Brotherhood leaders was sitting at his right hand at the table.
Yes.
And the problem we've got is, what the project is in 1982, and I think it was in Switzerland, they uncovered a plan by the Muslims to implement their caliphate, they call it, where they take over the world.
Right.
And they're going to do it. Their plan was to basically peacefully infiltrate the West, our government, our schools.
Well, they've done it before.
Oh, I know.
Other countries, that's how they do a lot of it. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, they're actually doing that. And what the Michelle Bachmann and them were pointing out is the number of Muslims that are inside our government, in the State Department. It's scary when they started showing all the influences that they're having. For instance, before we went to Iraq, our military troops, they had groups of them that met with, quote unquote, these Muslim, not extremists, but what they call them, they're our friends, for cultural, lessons or teachings. And it turned out that the groups they were meeting with later were found to be contributing to the Al-Qaeda. And, like, for instance, up in Garland here outside of Dallas, they found that one group that had sent $12 million to Al-Qaeda. They had a big bust. Well, Obama's connected with that. All the documents about those arrests and all the the investigative documents, the Congress have been trying to get from the Obama administration for over a year now, and they will not give it to them. And Michelle Bachmann and them are saying, what are they hiding? And what they think they're hiding is what they think is being hidden is Obama's connection to it, the connections from the White House or his administration to it.
Well, just look how most the last 2 years, we used to hear words. They talk about using terrorists for the people that actually are terrorists. You could call them a terrorist.
Yeah, they don't want to use that.
And caliphates and a lot of other terms that we used to use. You won't hear them use those words anymore. You'll hear them call terrorists people that are here,
right?
That are white people that are doing shit.
Exactly.
That aren't terrorists. They just went out and did something bad. they automatically call them a terrorist just because somebody shot somebody. It may not have had anything to do with it anyway. This guy stole a beer from me and I shot him. Well, you're a terrorist.
Right. Yeah. The reason. Yeah. That's what we're saying is because of the Muslim influence inside the government. That's how they come up with these these awful things. We're not going to use the word terrorist anymore. Or we're not going to use the word Islamophobe or that stuff. That's because of Muslims inside the government that are creating these.
And then they get the mainstream news to go right along with it. They just do whatever they're told.
Exactly. Well, there's Muslims in there too. So anyway, I tell you, man, you got to sign up for this thing just long enough to watch these two videos, and it's pretty scary. I watched both of them on Thursday night. It was so good, I just kept right on watching the second. And he's got a lot of good. He's not even on these. He's not even on them. These are very professionally done documentaries. They're really, really good.
Well, he's got a bunch of good people working with him.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
He does.
I would love to get to be that big, to where I could get the word out. He makes a lot of money, but he puts a lot of money back into it too.
He does. He's smart enough to get out of New York. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm almost willing to call him a Texan, but not quite.
Man, can you imagine the zombies that'll be there?
Eating people's faces off.
Oh, my goodness.
Wasn't that one in Florida?
Yeah.
God damn. Well, people do weird shit. Well, yeah, so anyway, the point is that things can happen. There's lots of clues out there showing that it's maybe on its way. Hopefully we can avoid it somehow. Hopefully that's by getting the word out. The only way we're going to get the word out is for people to quit being scared of what somebody's going to think about them, though.
Well, everybody, most everybody I talk to sense something's wrong.
Well, I'm finding fewer and fewer people look at me like I'm kind of total idiot.
Right.
When I'm talking about it, or what's wrong with me, or I'm crazy. Less and less is that happening. Right.
Well, and most people, a lot of people will quickly agree that there's something wrong in the government. Most people are afraid. They just.
Well, most people are at the point I was there for a while. I knew something was wrong. I knew things weren't right. I didn't want to face it.
But the only static I get now is, what are we going to do about it? What can you do? They got all the guns, that type of stuff. And
they don't have all the guns. We got all the guns.
We got all the guns.
We outnumber them by a shitload.
It's less than, I think it was like 2% of the population is in control, something like that, something like 2%. So that's not that many.
Well, it's time we got to take the control back over the government, and hopefully we can get it done before. Because the people in government, and that's, I know this is a general term, the way I'm talking in generals, but generally it is true, as far as I'm concerned. If you go into politics and you stay in politics, especially, you got something wrong with you. Yeah. You want power. You think you're smarter than everybody else, and everybody should do what you think. That's not the way to run the government. And it's gotten crazy. Totally, completely out of hand. And even when I was a kid, there was a bunch of this kind of talk, and there's been talk for years about people in politics, because there's always been, no matter what country you're in, no matter how good your system, you will always have those kind of people. And if you don't keep it under control, the problem is with this country, everything's got we have it so good, and we're so used to having our freedoms, and we haven't been through anything where we were at risk, dire risk, that we had to fight back and go totally to war. And for people to understand, it is a possibility. It's a very big possibility. And if you sit back on your butt and you won't take the time from the football game, or you won't take the time from your fishing trip, or whatever it might be, and you can still do those things. You just have to start looking. Turn the TV off for a few minutes, go on the computer and read some stuff. But when you read, and you go back and research some of these things we're talking about, say you go to Alex Jones or Glenn Beck or one of the other ones, and you go to their website, and you find an article there on some of this stuff we're talking about, and they say, well, here's some proof, or here's where the article came from, or here's where the information came from. You may follow it back to another website. Just because it's on that website doesn't mean it's true. But what happens most of the time, if you follow those links back to the original source, you will find, and a lot of times, government documents or court cases that have documented the truth and what happened and where it's coming from. And that goes for either side. I mean, it could be a negative or a positive as far as what we're talking about. It can go against us or it can go for us. But go back. Most of the time you'll find that the information's out there, and if you go back and you follow it properly, and you don't just believe it because somebody said so, you will find the evidence and the proof that will convince you that the things we're talking about are honest, they're real. And when you go listen to the left and hear their spewing of the crap that they spew out, you won't find evidence to point to that, the true evidence. And I don't mean just some article that some left-wing liberal blog or something put up. I mean, go back and follow the information right down to the nitty-gritty.
Well, it's like the 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition.
That's true.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was true. And he had media coming out saying it was only 140,000 rounds. Well, no.
And that was only for Social Security, and that was for target practice. Bullshit, it's hollow points.
Yeah, well, when you tracked it back, it was actually on the government bid side where they were asking for bids on it. That's how it got out. It's an open public website that they have where they post, out to the public things they're wanting to buy, and that's what they had. They put out a bid for 1.6. It was a total of. You had to add them up. It was different departments, but
they're also going back and blacking that crap out on a lot of these places.
Well, yeah. Did you know
that it's still there?
Did you know that 1.6? Did you know that? I've heard this today. I don't doubt it. The 1.6 billion rounds that they were buying is more than they bought in the last 35 years.
Oh yes, I've heard that. And I don't know if it was that many years that I heard, but yes, it's more than they've bought in many, many, many years total.
Yes, and
but I also heard that a lot of it's being shipped to the East Coast. Now that's some major shipping areas. Are they shipping it overseas? Some of it, or are they shipping it to where their biggest groups of organizations, their biggest populations, and their biggest organizations to fight? No.
I think major population is probably what it is, but. I tell you, there's something going on. They're not buying 1.6 billion rounds to, it's definitely not going to a war zone.
And they're not buying all these unmanned drones that are being bought to, admittedly by them, to be flown over the United States, just for the heck of it either.
No, they're armed drones.
Yes, armed drones. They're not doing it for the heck of it. They're not doing it because they're worried about somebody invading the country. They're doing it because we're already here and they want to use it against us, the American citizen, that might tell them to stick it. And we will, very forcefully.
Yeah. Well, I want to be the first to take out one of them drones. That's what I want.
I would love to be one of the first. But I don't want to get caught doing it either. No, you have to. But yeah, that's like you said, you can a lot of the stuff the government puts out, and not only that, the elites put out their plans on eliminating population up to 95. Well, these people are so arrogant they think they can just say it and we won't believe it. But yet most of the population won't believe it even when they do say it.
Well, I mean, on that the video that I was talking about on the Blaze, they've got recordings of them talking about, Kissinger talking about it. Henry Kissinger, he's the spokesman, he's the mouthpiece for the Bilderbergs, and they talk about reducing population.
Do you remember that movie, Slim Pickens? Dr. Strangelove, I think it was.
That's it.
That's Kissinger reminded me of the crazy nut. I never did like him. Never. Even when I was a kid, didn't even follow or understand what most of this shit was about. I always knew, even if I didn't understand, I knew that I didn't like the way politics was going even then. And I knew that, and, you call me a liberal, call me a Republican, call me a constitutionalist, a libertarian. I probably fit in all those groups. And I haven't even sat down and tried to figure out what the definition of each one is. But when it comes to this country, the Constitution is king in my books, because it protects us from all this stuff if we make them follow the Constitution.
Which they're not.
But they're not. And that's all we got to do. We got to kick out the ones that won't. Basically replace them all. If they just started gotten into politics and then their first term, maybe let them get reelected the second one if they've been doing a good job. But after that, they all need to go.
Well, see, the big target right now is the First Amendment. They got the UN.
We know that. I'm sorry, but we know that the Supreme Court is full of crap now.
Right.
We got to get some people in that will replace those assholes.
Well, yeah, but those are life sentence. Those are life terms.
Well, I tell you what.
I mean, there's only one way you're going.
How much you want to bet if you replace as many politicians as I'm saying, they would go right along with it after a while, because they wouldn't have really anything to argue with. And, a lot of them are getting old, so.
Yeah.
And if they couldn't go anywhere or live anywhere in public and be seen in public, they would quit.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to go killing people, so don't get the wrong idea.
Right.
I mean, if nobody would talk to them, they couldn't really go anyplace. Sooner or later, they'd probably get tired of it. But I don't know, there's a long ways to go before we get to that point. We got to start just cleaning the house. And I'm hoping, I don't know if Obama's going to win this time. I don't know if Romney's going to win this time.
I got a scary feeling he is.
Yeah, I got a bad feeling about it too, but I'm also thinking just a lot of people are just sitting back going, look, I already made up my mind. I'm not participating in your bullshit. I'm not telling you what I think. I don't care anymore what you.
I'll tell you how he's going to get in. There's going to be voter apathy.
Yeah, and they're trying to push a lot of that right now. They're trying to make everybody think it's already over with.
Well, people are like, I'm just not going to vote.
Well, that too. I've heard it many times already.
I'm almost to that point of saying I'm just not even going to vote. Because
I'm tired.
They're going to do the exact same thing.
I'm tired of voting for the least of the worst.
Well, and I don't even know if he's least of the worst. I mean, Romney wrote the health care bill. He wrote it in Massachusetts. That's the same one they use. So he's the author of it. Obama's the implementer of it, is all it is. So you're either voting for the author of it or the implementer.
Well, he's like a rope-a-dope.
Yeah. So, that's how I'm to the point where I'm just like, I know here in Texas, Romney's going to win, more than likely. The Republican usually wins.
Well, I'm going to go vote, even if I have to hold my nose while I do it, because I'm not going to participate this time in the apathy. But next time, I hope we got a better choice.
That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. We're going to get the two bought and paid for candidates until we can get a third party going.
Well, if we could just get a turnout like we did last time that gets rid of a bunch of the Democrats out of Congress and the House, that would be a help.
Well, no, they've been relegated. I mean, if you really look, they don't really have any power anymore. I mean, Obama basically, they told
you're irrelevant. It's the UN.
Yeah, they told him, hey, you don't declare war. The UN does. So, I mean, they're losing their power day by day.
Because they're sitting back and letting it happen, though.
Well,
maybe it's wishful thinking, but I'm hoping that if we get rid of a bunch more of these idiots that don't belong there, whether they be Democrat or Republican, that have gotten us at this point, that maybe there will be enough people in there then to start going, I don't think so, buddy. This ain't happening.
They don't have any choice. They don't have any choice. They're contractually bound to implement.
They're not contractually bound to listen to him say that UN had control of our military.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, go ahead.
Our government has been hoodwinked. They're contractually bound to the rules that are being made by the elite. Are they going to pull the plug? I mean, that's exactly what happened in 2008 when they had to do the bailouts. What was Bush told was going to happen? They were going to have to declare martial law if he didn't go along with it.
Well,
in other words,
I know what it's going to sound like. Go ahead.
I know it sounds crazy, but they've been doing this stuff, in these foreign, countries down in South America for years. They go down there and they get them bought into these derivatives where suddenly they owe, billion, they borrow $1 billion, and then by the time they get through with them, they owe $100 billion. They can't pay it back, so they default, and then we basically, the World Bank takes over, and they start taking out all their resources. They've been doing that in Africa and South America. Well, it's been done to us as well.
Oh yeah, it's been done and being done. Now
they go, and you get elected Congress, and you think you're going to go up there and make all these changes, and then you get up the same way the president, even if he wasn't bought and paid for. I mean, even Obama, if you look back at all the things he said he was going to do, and he did a 180-degree turnaround, and he just continued on what Bush was doing.
And worse.
And worse. But, if Bush had stayed in there, the same things would have happened. But they get up there in the Congress, they find out they find out that we're contractually bound to these things.
Let me work through. I'm going to interrupt for a minute. Let me work through this a little bit.
All right.
Now, I know, and I've heard this many times, people will listen to this, and once they get far enough into it, they go, well, what use is it? We can't do anything. No matter what we do, we can't fix it. Well, maybe that's true, maybe that's not. But you're damn sure you can't just sit back and do nothing. So for one thing, you got to get ready for it, like we talk about. All right.
Right.
The other thing is, I think with enough people, we can fix it. Now, does that fix mean we have to go through some bad times and tell these people, that's enough. We don't care what you want. We're not doing it anymore. Screw your contracts. Screw your money. We'll just go through a hard times, a big depression, and we'll rebuild the country back in the way it should have been a long time ago, using our Constitution. And if you don't like it, try to do something about it. We got more people and more guns than you can ever do anything about. Now, do we have to go through that? I hope not. Is that what it might take to fix everything? Maybe so. But we can't give up. We still got to keep fighting. We still got to try to get the right kind of politicians in there. And then once you get the right kind of politicians in there, maybe they will have to sit down and look at it honestly and say, your contracts are null and void. We don't give a shit about them anymore. This country's going to have to go through some bad times, but we're not participating.
Well, our country has been in receivership since 1933. That's when the gold was outlawed. The Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve that's when they took their final hold. And
I can't believe I did not know that I'm interrupting you. I did not know this till not too long ago. That it was a presidential order to outlaw gold.
Yes, it was. But
how did they even let that happen? The Congress people were assholes then, too.
No. Let me tell you something about that. Who paid that order? What president?
I'm trying to remember his name right now.
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt, yeah.
Where did Roosevelt come from?
Well, tell me.
He was the governor. He was the governor of the New York Federal Reserve.
I did not realize that either.
Absolutely. Roosevelt was put in office to implement the Federal Reserve. He was a hand-picked president.
By the Vandenbergs and so on and so forth.
The Bilderberg group, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, all those people. Yeah. All those guys formed the Federal Reserve on Jackal Island off the coast of Georgia. In 1913 was when they put all this together, and it took them until 1933 to get it fully implemented. And the Federal Reserve was implemented. Roosevelt was put in office to do it, and the Federal Reserve Act was passed on Christmas Eve.
There was nobody around to talk about it.
Exactly. And so what they did was they said, hey, Frank, you turn your gold in for this Federal Reserve currency, this currency. But then what happened was this gold, there's 13 of these families that own the Federal Reserve are not even American. They're in Europe and Spain and, countries overseas. So the bulk of the gold that they were turning in for the dollars, the new Federal Reserve notes, that gold was leaving the country. The families were taking it over to, and so of course then the public found out about this because you can't start moving tons of gold out of the country without somebody knowing it. That's when Roosevelt outlawed the ownership of gold. So hey, it don't matter, you can't get your gold, because people wanted to get their gold back.
Right.
And they said, oh, it don't matter, you can't. It's against the law for you to own the gold anyway.
Yeah. See, no president should have that kind of power. Well,
they went on further with that. If you start looking out, and it's been years since I've read this stuff, but I mean, it's all out there. There's been books written about it and the documents to prove everything.
Well, that's one of the reasons I like having you on, because you've been looking at this stuff a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, and so as a result, they when all this happened, outlawing gold, et cetera, they implemented a Trading with the Enemies Act, which was left over from the Civil War. After the Civil War, you had to, the South was treated as an enemy, and you had to get permission to trade with the enemy, except, the North, the Union, had a tight rein on things. Well, they re-implemented that because what happened when he outlawed gold, the public was declared a threat to the national security, and since they were a threat to the national security, they were an enemy of the state.
Like we are now.
Like we still are. We've been this way since 1933. And guess what? They, of course, they outlawed gold, but guess what else they did? And you trace all this back. As a enemy living in this country and being treated as a threat to the national security, they can, under the Trading with the Enemies Act, they can license you in your activities. For instance,
that's where all these licenses came from?
Yes, yes. We got our driver's license out of this, license to do business. All these regulations started coming around. And you can trace all of them back to 33. But yes, that's exactly where it is. And we've been in this mode ever since.
Yeah, I knew it went back a ways.
But also we've been in, like I said earlier, we've been in receivership since 1933, and that's a lot of people don't realize it, and they really become aware of it when they get elected into office.
Okay, well, to end the show, we're about an hour in now. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want to see if you can respond, because I'm not sure how to answer it myself right now. And if you can answer it, we'll just leave it there, and we'll think about it. Maybe we'll talk about it next. If we give up and quit fighting and just let this shit happen, the first question is, what do you think will happen? And if we don't give up and fight hard and cause what we've discussed tonight, which would probably happen if we did fight back and made the changes, what do you think where do you think we'd be on each of them?
Well, I think that if we give up and just let it move on forward, we will become, you got to remember that most of the elite in the Bilderberg group, they're all eugenics. and they believe that the world's population has to be reduced by 90%. I've even heard numbers as high as 95%, and this is in their own writings. They write this.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've seen it.
There's the Gladstone, what they call the Gladstone monuments down in Georgia, that state all this, and so they have built underground bunkers that they have well stocked. And
well, they've had well documented meetings and papers and all that kind of shit on it. So
right. So if we and so what they'll do either way, whichever way. Whether we continue on, they're going to try to implement that either way, whether we fight back or whether we don't fight back. And the way they'll do that is create, like I said before, they'll probably just shut off the welfare checks, and that will create a civil unrest and turn into a civil war. And they'll let it, they'll go in their bunkers or whatever. And let
people kill each other.
And let people kill each other out. They even talk about releasing the pandemic to let it kill out people as well. But their goal is to get down to only 500 million people on the earth.
So basically, what you're saying is, and I agree because I think I've said it in other ways before, that either way we go, we're screwed.
Yeah, it's whether we want to go the easy way or the hard way.
But if we go into their way, well, let me put it another way. We've gone through that. So say you're listening to this show and you're not believing that it's as bad as we think, but you're just thinking, yeah, we have to change the government. Yeah, maybe we'll have to go through some really hard times. And if we don't, it'll get worse. So if we don't do something about it, sooner or later we're going to go broke. Right. Well, in regular layman's terms, looking at things, the country's going to go broke and collapse. The checks will stop. There'll be fighting. Be a lot of people die. That's if we don't do anything about it. If we do, those same things will probably happen. But at least we'll be able to rebuild and go back to being, and be free again and start over again. I still think there's a way out if we get the information out enough. I still think that we can fix this without all this happening. But the further I look into it, the less I think that possibility is realistic.
Well, if you look at the way right now we're buying our own debt, okay? China's...
Oh, yeah, QE infinity?
Right.
Give me a freaking break.
But all that's going to create is hyperinflation.
Excuse my language, people. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to create hyperinflation. What I've been talking about, we're talking about stockpiling food and stuff. Just for QE infinity, you better stockpile some food up because you're not going to be able to afford to buy that food. Look back at World War II. At the end of, between World War I and World War II, during the Weimar Republic, people were taking a wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread. Okay? Can you imagine what it would be like if we get into that situation where, you're with they didn't have 300 million people in Germany at that time. They were coming out of World War I. They lost a lot of people in World War I. They were rebuilding, of course, but
most of the people lost in World War I were because of diseases. We lost more people, soldiers, from diseases.
Yes, but what I'm getting at is just look at the price of food. Just right now the price of food is jumping. It's making big jumps now already. And two, let me interject real quick, because what I was trying to say in World War II, because of what you're talking about, the price of food, people weren't healthy. There was a lot of people that weren't healthy, so disease. Right.
All right. We're getting there. If that happened again, we would very likely go through the same thing, a disease. And the government could just easily, well, not the government, but what we were talking about a while ago, they could easily put another disease out there and say, well, it's just, natural because there's so many sick people out there and unfed people.
Exactly. And all you got to do is look at, don't think that the government's going to come around and hand you bags of wheat, because I mean they didn't even do that.
It won't be enough. It won't be enough even if they would.
They can't do it anyway. There's nobody going to stay. I mean, if it gets to that point, if you're in the military or you're a police, you're not going to stay on the job. You're going home to take care of your family.
Damn right.
They're not going to be. I mean, you're not going to have these guys coming around on the trucks and handing out bags of wheat to all your neighbors, and that is not going to happen.
There might be a few left, but there won't be many.
No, it's not going to happen. We're importing. We were exporting food up until recent years. Now we're importing food. We don't even grow enough to feed our own people here.
Well, we use it for gas, so it's stupid as hell.
But
stupid when they did it.
It's I look at it like this: the food that I'm saving up here is just nothing but a bank. I'm just putting it in a bank. I'm not, the money I'm spending on it. It's either spend it on that or spend it on miscellaneous stuff, running around or eating out or whatever. It's better to be putting it in some food that you can use later.
Yeah. And that brings us in. That kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about, and I'd forgotten about this. But we were discussing dehydrating food.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna, if you're not too tired, we're gonna keep going for a few minutes. All right. And I want to do this again next. Well, I'll talk to you later about that. All right. You brought up dehydration, and I've known about it for years. My family's done it for years. I got away from it, and I got so busy doing other things with the bugoutbagcontent.com, with this show, with working for a living, with, on and on, okay, that one just got past me. I just hadn't even thought about doing it. Now, you've got your dehydrator, you've got your bag sealer,
right?
And you've got your Mylar bags, right? So I ordered my stuff, and it's probably be here next week. So I'm going to start doing it.
Off of Amazon?
No, I got mine off of eBay.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Check out Amazon. Real good, quick, fast turnaround.
Yeah, but I got a couple of sellers there that I like, so I went through them. Anyway, I'm not promoting anything on eBay, but if you like eBay, go to eBay. If you like Amazon, go to Amazon. You can get, if you're careful with eBay and you go with good sellers that have got good reputation, check on your prices, you can get some good sales there. Amazon's got a good reputation, go there. A lot of this stuff you can just go down to the store and buy. All right? So whatever you want to do. I'm not making any money off of it. You do it any way you want, whatever works for you. I don't, just get it done. So there are also other things. You get your foods, look at YouTube videos, listen to what we're talking about, whatever. Get your information, figure out what brands you can afford, how much you think you're going to do, because the amount that you think you're going to do will determine what size dehydrator you want. It may determine what quality of sealer you want, because if you're going to do high quantities in short amount of time, you might want to get a little bit better one. Don't go with the real cheap ones no matter what you do, because that's exactly what they are. They're cheap and they won't last very long. So, but also what you can do is, as you're going through and you're dehydrating your bananas, your strawberries, whatever it is, we talked about you can do like pasta, spaghettis and chili. You can dehydrate chili all ready to go, all right? And other meals. You can do meats, vegetables.
What, you take like a can of chili and dehydrate it, or
make your own whatever chili, whatever. Whether you make your own spaghetti, make your own chili, make your own whatever it is, you can pretty much dehydrate any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
All right. And you have to put it on something that it won't run through when you put it in the dehydrator. But
right. Well, most of them have like what they call the fruit roll sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
you can do fruit rolls. And,
mine has that what they call a fruit roll
sheet. Yeah, something that's a liquid that won't drip food and everything.
Right.
So,
now, just for people starting out with dehydrator, I mean, I've been dehydrating a lot of. I get these. It's a mixed vegetable in a 5-pound bag.
Right.
And
it's got frozen. It's frozen stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because
you don't have to blanch it.
Right. You don't have to blanch. You take that bag and pour it right in that dehydrator and just dehydrate it, and you don't have to do any prep work on it. If you take fresh vegetables, you do have to do a little prep and what they call blanch it. And I don't even know exactly what is involved in that, but if you're doing that, you want to Google that and find out what you got to do. It has to do with kind of steaming it for a few minutes, I guess. But I've been dehydrating a lot of these mixed vegetables. It's got peas, corn, and carrots, just a mixture of that, and it takes about 4 hours. I did a 5-pound bag yesterday, and it took took 5 hours. And that bag has 28 servings in that bag. Works out to about 4 cents a serving. And when I take that 5-pound bag and dehydrate it, it will all fit in a quart-size Ziploc bag, a sealer type, the kind that you can seal. Now, what I'm doing is I temporarily store them in those until I get enough, and then I put them in a 1-gallon Mylar bag. I get about 25, 30. Originally, what was about 30 pounds of what originally was 30 pounds of frozen vegetables, I can get in a 1-gallon Mylar bag with plenty of space left over. And it's very light.
Right.
It's not nowhere near 30 pounds. The 5 pounds dehydrates down about 10 ounces in weight.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've heard, and I know this for a fact because I've done some before. When you take whatever it is you want to dehydrate, and you dehydrate it, and then you rehydrate it, it's not like getting the fresh vegetable off the vine, or the fresh meat off the vine, or the fresh spaghetti or chili or whatever you made. But it still tastes pretty damn good. And if you're hungry, it's going to taste great. Now, one of the reasons I kind of suggest like making your own chili or spaghetti or lasagna or whatever you're going to do. It is much cheaper to go buy that stuff and make it yourself than it is to go buy it in a can.
Right.
All right. You can make a lot of chili. You can make a lot of spaghetti. You can feed a lot of people on a lot less money than most people really, or a lot of people really think about when you buy properly. When you're planning ahead and you look at the sales, a lot of times you can find really good sales on stuff. When stuff's in season, you get it and you dehydrate it. And what a lot of people are doing, exactly that. Even if they're not preparing for bad times, they're going to the store when something's in season and it's fairly cheap. They go buy it, they dehydrate it, and then they rehydrate it and use it as a meal or to cook a meal with,
Well, now like spaghetti, couldn't you just take and vacuum seal the spaghetti before you even cook it? Like, buy a box of it and just vacuum seal that?
Yeah, well, you can take cake mixes.
Right.
All right, and do that too. I mean, you can get all the stuff together and have it ready and vacuum seal it.
See, I've been buying a lot of these. It's the Knorr, Knorr. It's comes in a little Mylar pack. It's what they call side dishes.
Right.
They'll have like broccoli and cheese, chicken and broccoli, or chicken and cheese. Different.
Yeah, what you were talking about earlier, and I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and they're $1 a pack. Sometimes you can catch them on sale for 80 cents. But anyway, they're $1 a pack. It's freeze dried actually. But what I've been doing is cutting like a 1-inch slit with a little razor knife, a little one of those little tiny box cutters. I cut a little 1-inch slit right up just below the seal, at the top of it, and I put a 100 cc oxygen absorber in there, and then I reseal it, using my heat sealer.
Right.
And just put a fresh new seal right below. I kind of squeeze out the air as much as possible, and then I seal it again, and then I let it. After 24 hours, that thing is puckered up like a. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, just and you can fold it in half at that point, and say they store real easily, and so you got the whole thing, and those things will keep for about three, on the expiration date it's like 3 years, but you'll turn that in about 15 years by just doing that,
or more when stored in a properly.
Yeah. Well,
and you can, and there's nothing saying that you can't go reuse that stuff 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road. You can pull that stuff out, use it, and make some more, and replace it.
Exactly.
All right. Now, one of the reasons I'm saying go make your own, we'll stick with spaghetti or chili or something, is if you're in the situation we were talking about maybe being in, how much easier is it to pour all of it in one thing, warm it up, and instead of having several things you have to cook.
Right.
It's already cooked. All you do is warm it up. It's a lot easier to cook it now when you can afford the electricity, when you have the electricity or the gas or whatever, than it is later in emergency situations.
Right.
That's why I'm thinking about that way. But there's nothing wrong with doing what you're talking about either.
No, with those side dishes, you just dump those things in 2 cups. You take 2 cups of water, you dump that packet into it, and you just bring it to a boil, and let it simmer for about 5 minutes, and it's actually good stuff. We've tried some of it, and my wife's like, hey man, she hadn't been buying it until I pointed it out. I saw it on YouTube, and so anyway, I got about 50 or 60 of them now that are all prepped and ready to stock, and of course I can put about 30 into a 5-gallon bucket, and I call those are like comfort meals,
And comfort meals is what I want people to think about.
Yeah, it just complements your beans and rice, because you're pretty much going to be cooking a lot of beans and rice.
Well, those comfort meals will also raise your spirits, and you're going to need a lot of that.
Right.
All right. Now, I haven't talked to you about this yet too much. I really haven't told you where I want to go with this, but before the end of the show, I'm going to do that. First, if you want to see some of the videos I've done some on some guns. The first show that Mike and I did over at Google Plus Hangouts is on my YouTube channel as well. If you go to YouTube and put in all one word, Bug Out Bag Contents, you will find my channel. And you'll find videos like a prepper's take on NBC Revolution TV show. That's the one we did the other night, me and Mike. You'll find a video on the Kel-Tec, the upgrades I did on it, on my pistol. And so now I'm going to suggest this to you, Al, and we'll talk more about it later, as we're talking about this dehydrating stuff. We could get together and do a live video on some of this stuff we're talking about, on what kind of equipment we're using, how we're using it. We can talk about the different kind of bags, different kind of storage containers. We can talk about the oxygen absorbers and give people a real idea of what they need to be looking at and what we've kind of learned and what we're doing, and we can do that. And it will live feed over to YouTube, and people can watch it there live, or they could join in over at the Hangouts, which I still don't know how to tell you how to get there because I haven't found anything. But I can probably figure it out pretty quickly once I really try. So maybe we can do that, and so people can find that, and we can do live videos on other topics that we've done here. Mostly, I think it would probably be prepper topics, and not so much politics. But we're watching that show Revolutions, and that's what me and Mike started on doing it the other night. We did it as a test to see how things worked, but love to have you there to do that one too. So if you want to join in that, love to have you there.
Yeah.
So that's like a little preview of what's coming up. Hopefully we can get this stuff done, but we all have schedules where we can't always work it out, so I can't give you a time frame when we're going to do it, but that's what we're looking at maybe doing. And guest 3 is on the call. We've had a couple guests. We've been so busy talking, I haven't even looked at the chat room. But let me look over here. We've got, it looks like guest 3 called in. Maybe we won't end the show yet. Let me see if I can unmute guest 3 and see if he wants to. Guest 3, did you have something you wanted to add in? Let's see here. I didn't even open up participation, allow participation. Guest 3, you there? I guess not. Oh, there.
I barely got on. I don't even know what's been said so far.
Oh, well, we were just talking about dehydrating food for preparing for bad times, whether it be you lose your job or whether some hard times come in. But we're also talking about using it to hold finances down a little bit. Certain things you can buy when it's in season and you can dehydrate it and reuse it later. That's what we're just talking about. But we've been talking about some politics and just state of the affairs in the country right now. We were just getting ready to end the show, so hopefully
I have dehydrated quite a bit of food.
Right. So hopefully, yeah.
And what's really
pretty
fun
cool.
to you can get these recipes where you can use all your dehydrated foods and make like 7 meals and put in jars, and there's a whole lot of different recipes. And so if you did 7 of them of 7 different recipes, you'd have 49 meals that are just real easy. You just put your water in the pan and pour the jar of stuff in and cook it for 20 minutes or however long, and there you've got your meal.
Well, I know the big topic about dehydrating now is for so many people are concerned about, earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, collapse of the economy, different things. People are really doing it. But this is not a new thing. This goes way back. My family has done it for years, which I kind of got away from because, that's just the way things went. But it's a great tool to have. There's so many different things you can do with it. You don't have to just be getting prepared for bad times. It's a great tool to have just to have for convenience.
Yeah, be able to eat.
So, go ahead.
But you paid the prices of a year ago and look at the prices now. So you're eating food that costs a lot less.
And they're just going to keep going up. Oh yes, and it should be considered in so many different ways that I think it'd be almost negligent to not at least look into it. So we've been on way past what we normally have, so I'm going to end the show now. And thanks for stopping by. Maybe you can stop by next Saturday, and maybe you've got some stuff about recipes or something you want to talk about. We'll talk about it. So thanks for stopping by, everybody. We'll be back next Saturday night at Politics and Preppers podcast here at TalkShoe.com. We'll be back at 10 o'clock Central Time, and caller ID number is 120315. And that's it for tonight. Al, hang around for a minute, and we'll talk off the air. And that's it for tonight. Thanks, everybody.